YouTube guys, Seth here again. We're going to go over an FS90. One of the things that will happen if you leave these set and you own a landscape company, or you just leave them set over the winter, is when you go to start it, if you watch the head there, the head starts to spin. We're going to show you how to remedy this. So on this, what I like to do is I like to slide the handle off. So on this, you remove this screw right here, or you just loosen it. You'll loosen this one right here. And then there's one right here, which is kind of, you can't tell with the rubber piece there. This happens over a period of time when they get old, but there's a screw inside there. And these are all T27s. So when you do that, you'll remove these two, or loosen these two, and you'll loosen this one or remove it. It's easier just to loosen them, actually, come to think about it. So this right here would be a factory scrunch. And then this right here is one of these still T-handles. Now, I don't always use electric. I'm a hand tool guy. So I just loosen these up like so. Like so. And like so. With my T-handle. And then when I've got my trimmer in my vise tight, it all slides off, and if you look, that's the cable end, and that thing is pretty rusty, so that's a good indication of why this thing is sticking on the head. So let's go over to the bench. Okay, so now that we got the trimmer head on the bench, what we're going to do is we're going to remove these three screws real quick here. And again, it goes faster sometimes if you use electric, but I'm a little bit lazy in getting the drill out. So there's one. Two. And three. And now what you can do is you can pull this up and off. You may have to get it loose a little bit, but it will slide past this cover right here. Once you get that out, it's maybe a little bit of persuasion. This one, it looks like, needs a little bit more than persuasion. That what you've got on one of these sides are dowel pins that are plastic, and they're part of the housing. They actually go through. The other part of this is this clutch is probably really stuck on here. So we may even have to remove the cover. So to remove the cover on this one, what you're going to do is you're going to pull this piece right here. This is just another screw. And you're just going to slide this up and off. If you look underneath here, you can almost get a view of it, but this is where your clutch housing is, and this is probably where it's most stuck at. So sometimes you can actually get in between these pieces right here and kind of work your magic and work it off, because it will eventually come. It's just a matter of how much it needs to be pried, and this one is starting to come off now, which is good, because this is where our problem is going to be at, is underneath here. And again, the reason that these do this is because what will happen is this clutch assembly, and there it is right there. So you can see all the rust. While you're doing this, while you're in here, if you notice how that one makes a growling sound, that means that bearing is dry. So what we're going to do as well on this one, along with servicing the clutch, because you can see where the clutch is no longer moving on those. In this one, the one side you don't have the space on, and then the other side you have space on. And if you look, this shoe is outward, and that's what's touching against the drum there. But this drum is actually real easy to remove. There's a screw inside here, an Allen or a Torx bit. What you do is you just loosen this up. You can loosen it up all the way. You can loosen it up part of the way. Now it's all the way undone. And then what I'll do is I'll grab a hammer and a drift. I don't like to beat up my drift too much, so I got a copper hammer, but you just push that out, and now you've got access to this bearing. So we're going to show you how to do the bearing in just a moment. So now that we got the clutch drum out, as we showed you earlier, what we're going to do is we're going to remove this O-ring here, or this, sorry, snap ring, not O-ring, with a pair of snap ring pliers. This one's actually a steel set. I don't know the part number. They're made by Knipex. And you're going to need one of these. This is called a clamshell puller. They sell them on the Snap-on truck. They sell them through OTC. They probably even have them at Harbor Freight in a set, which you can get a large one, small one, and a medium one, I would imagine. They have everything there nowadays, it seems like. Which is great because it allows do-it-yourselfers like you guys to not have to spend money on a Snap-on truck in order to do some of this stuff. Because Snap-on, if you're a mechanic, especially in the automotive field, like I am both automotive and small engine, I do a lot of car repair, and a lot of times I get stuck going on the truck, and by the time I get off the truck, it's $900 worth of new stuff that's required to do a $150 job, and then you make the money back over time. But so this clamshell's around the bearing. You stick it in your vise if you have a vise, or like I've got here, this is a set of Harbor Freight. They're actually from a press. And you just go on here with your drift, and I should probably be wearing safety glasses. So, safety glasses on. Once you get the clip off, you drift it out. And what we're going to do is we're going to spray a little bit of penetrating oil in there. This is called Freol. It's stuff they use. One of my buddy works freight over at Central in Olympia, Washington. And this bearing right here, this bearing is used on a lot of applications. I actually have a few of these bearings in stock. I need to take the part number off of this one. So this is an access bearing. This can be purchased at like Meguiar Bearing or a bearing shop. I don't know if everybody has Meguiar bearings around them. You can also get these bearings too at any of the Ace hardware stores that have a large selection of their Dorman, or not Dorman, oh, I can't even think of the name of it, but their hardware section has these as well. But you just take this part number right here, you look in the bearing box, or you could take your old bearing with you and just match it up. This one's actually an electrical grade bearing. The way that you know that is it's got a metal retainer with the rubber ring inside. So this is actually a better bearing than what the one that would come off of here is. So when you go to push it on, it's the exact opposite. I always flip mine upside down and squeeze it in a little bit. That way I know that I'm good to go. with it being like it is. I don't like my stuff coming apart and flinging at me. Then we'll move our jaws in a little bit tighter. And we're going to literally tap it back in and push it back through. And you can see the recessed edge on there. That means our C-clip will literally, this one might need to be pushed back into place because, yeah, it's kind of rusty, but I don't have an extra C-clip, otherwise I'd reuse, or I wouldn't reuse it, but either way, when you push that back on, that is done. And it's back on. And in order to put this back in there, what you're going to do is you're going to just push it in there. And what I normally do is, let's see how this thing is kind of bent. What I'll do is I'll start it with the Torx head, and then I will start to drive it in. You got to make sure that you can actually see it, because you got to drive it in as you're doing it. And we will tighten it up. And we'll drive it in again. And look at that. Now you no longer have that wobble. And to finish it off, we'll spray a little bit of our stuff in there, our Freol. We like it clean. This is synthetic steel wool. We'll just give this a quick rub down. And now we're ready to attack the clutch. Okay, so now we're back. This has got some grass in it and some corrosion in it, so we're just going to kind of pick these out. These bolt holes out with a pick. Get them real good. And these you can purchase at just about any store. They're just a set of channel locks. The model number is GL12. I do believe that means they're 12 inches handles. And I don't know what the G stands for, but anyways, these are the same thing, T27s. Grab a hold of it, twist it, and grab a hold of the other one, and again, twist it. And this should about fall right off. So what we're going to do with this, before we just pull it right off, as you can see here, we've got two bolts, or screws. This is a cover. This thing comes off. We're going to hit it with the Freol and get it nice. And when you're looking at this, these will pop right off normally, just like so. What they've got is they've got this piece, this washer right here, which you can see that these protrude through. That's how they line up on the flywheel correctly. And then there's actually a thrust washer in between this plate and the shoe itself, which you'll need to be careful of. So when I do these, like I said, I spray them down with penetrating oil real well, just so I can get all that stuff off. Sometimes I'll hit it too with the thing just to kind of clean the edges of these off. These ones don't really look like they need it too much. And then what you can do is you can kind of work this washer off. Sometimes you'll need a pick, sometimes you'll need a screwdriver, but you can see where it just moved. And once you get the washer off, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do a clutch inspection of it. Because what will happen is when you take these apart, like this one right here, this clutch is no good. It's totally just, it broke off. And that wasn't because we held it in any way, shape, or form. If you look, you can see where the corrosion had started. It's just because of the fact that it was ready to go. That's probably the reason it returned like it did, was because of the fact that it was ready to go. Luckily, we've got another one here, but when you inspect one of these, you're looking for broken parts like this. What you're also looking for is on these the springs where they touch at will sometimes wear thin on those areas. And also, the eyelets on here will be pushed out or pulled in from it doing that, and they'll actually be very thin. They'll be like almost paper thin on some of them. So lucky for me, I've got lots of spare parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to get a socket about that size of pin. I'm going to take my, this is called a roll pin punch. You can see the roll pin punch there. This is for spring pins that are going like shafts and stuff like that. You just kind of work it out. And this one is a little bit stuck. It isn't wanting to come out very easily. It may require heat or just, here we go, it's out. Just a little bit harder of a smack. And then we'll do the same thing to this one. And normally you would replace the entire clutch if you don't have spare parts. This one kind of needs to go back in service, and as you can see, this one came out much easier. So what I do with these spacers is I normally run them through a wire wheel, and then these, what I'll do is I'll just kind of run these through the synthetic steel wool and clean them up real good, like so, so that when I go to put them back together, everything works properly and fits. But that's all there is to that. And I'm going to run over to the wire wheel real quick and clean these up. Okay, so now that we got these all wire wheeled up, we sprayed a little bit of lubricant on them, and they're basically ready to go back inside the clutch. The spring goes up on this one. These go on opposite ends. Pull them apart like so. You face your recessed edges downward. And we're going to make sure that we have a little bit extra to come out. But these are pretty much freed up to the point where they are good. And if you want, you can roll them around a little bit and kind of push it in and out a little bit. It isn't going to hurt anything to do so. But, make sure that it's free. And then it's pushed in and out. And it works real well because, again, you don't want these sticking. And then what I'll do is I'll throw my washers on there, knowing that those need to go on there first. And then we'll put the thrust plate on there, as they call it, I do believe. And this may take a little bit of work to get on there, but it should fit right on really simply as I drop stuff here. So thrust plate. Yeah, there we go. So thrust plate is in place. And you'll just want to make sure that your washers are in place like these ones are currently. And then we'll push the thrust plate all the way towards the washers. Make sure that these are good again. And then we have our other thrust plate, which goes over the top. we can shove these in. Where'd my thrust plate go? Oh, there it is right there. I put it away in the parts tray. So put this on, put your bolts back in. These are, I do believe, 6x1 millimeter thread pitch. Either that or they are 5x0.8. They look more like 6x1. Still uses both sizes, just in case you need to replace those with some different ones. I've done enough of these. I got a huge collection of bolts. But, tighten it down after you've got it on there. There you go. One, two, make sure those are gluten tight. And then what I like to do is I like to verify my stuff works. So I'll go like this, and I'll go one, and verify that it moves in and out. Because if it doesn't, you've got a problem. But there's one, which it moves in and out. And you can see that. There's one. And then there's two, which should do the same thing, which is going to move in and out. And if it doesn't, yep, this one does, so that one moves in and out too. So now, you can put your front cover back on with the new bearing, and it should slide right over. Make sure your throttle cable's in position. Again, with ease. And you can put your basket back on, because you'll actually need these rooms to put the basket back on. And actually, we're going to leave the basket off, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to tune this thing up. So this is going to be part 2 coming up next. So I forgot to mention, these are going to be a little bit of a fight to get on. So when you go on, if you choose to, you can spray it down with a little bit of lubricant. I don't like to, because this is actually a holding point. It's kind of a safety issue to do so. But this shaft sticks out. Sometimes you got to fight with the clutch a little bit to get it on there properly. Especially after you put a fresh bearing in there, because it will move very freely. But what you'll feel is a step. And you can watch the clutch drum inside there. Like this one's not on all the way. There we go. You see how that stepped on there? Now you can tighten your bolts away.